What's up guys, today we're going to be going over what might be the craziest build I've ever made, and though you are not experiencing deja vu, I did use a title pretty similar to this the other day, but honestly I just don't know the title of some of these build videos. Their synergy is just through the roof and they're honestly some of the best things I've ever made. Before we get into the video, I'll be streaming my point of view of Clan Redeem's world's first attempt for Deep Stone Crypt on Saturday, and I'm going to be partnering with G Fuel to stream it on their account, and their Twitch channel will be on screen right now and linked in the comments and description, along with a link to the G Fuel store, which will automatically apply my discount code, which is once again 30% off until Monday. So if you want to try some G Fuel out, this will be the best opportunity with the highest discount through Monday. So let's go ahead and begin with the video. So there'll be two builds in this video that use a lot of old weapons, but you'll be able to replace pretty much everything I'll be using in this video with new things, and I'll explain that as it happens. And first, looking at the tools we'll be using in the builds, the first thing will be the Aspect on Warlock Ice Flare Bolts. Then two of the three fragments we'll be using is Whisper of Bonds. Defeating frozen targets with weapons grants you super energy. Then also Whisper of Hedrons. Gain a bonus to weapon damage after freezing a target with stasis. So pretty much how these three things work is whenever we freeze a target, we'll get a 25% weapon damage increase and also get more super energy when we kill them. Also, when we kill that frozen enemy, it will send out a seeker, which will then go towards nearby enemies and then freeze them and pretty much rinse repeat. Then the third fragment we'll be using is Whisper of Shards, which will be whenever we shatter a stasis crystal, we'll get a buff called Increased Ability Regeneration. And to take advantage of that in this build, we'll need Salvation's Grip, which is the exotic GL that creates stasis crystals. And whenever we fully charge up the weapon, there'll be 5 crystals created, and every single time we destroy one of them, we'll get the ability regeneration for 5 seconds, capped out at a max of 10. Then we'll be using two different grenades with these builds. The first one will be the Dusk-Filled Grenade, and pretty much what this one does will pull everyone in the radius towards the middle and slow them, then eventually we'll freeze them if they can't escape. Then the second one we'll be using is the Cold Snap Grenade. This one's more like an arc bolt where it will track towards enemies. It will freeze 2 enemies at a time. Then from there, with the aspect, that will chain to more and more enemies after you kill the first one. Then for the first build, we'll be using Verity's Brow, which is the exotic on Warlock where we get energy weapon kills and get a buff called Death Throws, which will help us get our grenades back even quicker. Then also will do up to 50% more damage per grenade. And pretty much how this will work in the build is that we'll have ×5 the entire time. Then the thing I don't really mention that much about Verity's Brow is the effect it has on teammates. Every single time I throw my grenade, my teammates will get filled with flames, which pretty much will give them a full grenade recharge. So not only is this exotic really good for you, it's also really good for your teammates. Then for the first build, our energy weapon will be Martyr's Retribution or the Deafening Whisper. And if you have the Deafening Whisper on, you'll want Wellspring, which will be pretty much the exact same as Demolitionist on Martyrs. The only difference is Demolitionist will also reload our weapon, which is why I'll be using it instead. And the first mod for the build will be Blast Radius, which will allow us to become Charge of Light on double kills with our Martyrs or Deafening Whisper. Then with those stacks of Charge of Light, we'll be using Firepower, and we'll have 4 of those mods stacked on top of each other. And what these mods will do is will give us our grenade back whenever we throw it while charged with light, and the more firepowers we stack, the more percent we'll get. So pretty much how this works is you become charged with light with double kills on Martyrs, all the way up to ×2. Then when you throw a grenade, you'll get roughly like 66% of your grenade instantly. Then when you pair that with Demolitionist or Wellspring on your GL, if you get 3 kills, you will then have your full grenade back, and you will also be proccing all kinds of buffs at the same time. You'll get the Verity's Brow perk, you will get the 25% damage increase, then you will also be getting the super energy whenever you kill frozen targets. And the way this pairs with Demolitionist on the Martyr's Retribution is you can pretty much throw a grenade, which pulls everything into one area, which makes it insanely easy to kill them all with one shot of either of the Waveframe GLs, because of the fact that the grenade will pull them all to the center. And when you do that, you'll get charged with light, which means the next time you throw a grenade, you'll get that 66 chunk right away. And pretty much how it works with Martyr's Retribution and Demolitionist is you throw a grenade, shoot a GL, throw a grenade, shoot a GL, and back and forth, and never have to reload. Then when you mix in the Salvation's Grip, which procs the increased ability regeneration for 10 seconds, I mean, your grenade recharge rate is through the roof. Pretty much every 2 kills, you have a grenade. I mean, it's actually crazy. If there was enough ads around, pretty much I'll throw my grenade, shoot a GL, throw my grenade, shoot a GL, pretty much as fast as the game could keep up. And like I mentioned several times, you don't need the Martyr's Retribution. This will also work with the Deafening Whisper with Wellspring. The only difference is you'll have to reload every single time you shoot the weapon. If you have Ambitious Assassin, you can get a 2 magazine, which will help out with that. So that's why I'm using my Martyrs, because that's Demolitionist, which will allow me to reload the weapon and combo really well with the grenades. I also have a Breach Light on because it's one of my favorite weapons ever, but you can also use something like the new SMG with Friction Fire, and I should be making a video on that SMG later today. Now for the second build, we're going to be using the Cold Snap Grenade, which will allow us to take advantage of the fragments a lot more efficiently. And for this one, we'll be using Nezarec Sin, which is whenever we get void damage kills, it'll increase the ability recharge rate of all 3 of our abilities plus our super. And pretty much what you'll need is a void weapon with demolitionist on it. Whatever that is, you can use it. And depending on what that weapon is, for example, I'm using Gnawing Hunger, will determine what the first mod is on the build. I'm using Sustained Charge, which will allow me to become chargeable light on rapid kills with ARs. But if you're using, for example, Truth Teller, you'd also still be using Blast Radius. And this build works pretty much the exact same way, but since every enemy will be frozen instantly, unlike the dusk-filled grenades that pretty much just slow them, and we won't really give them enough time to freeze, more of the enemies we'll be shooting in this build will be frozen, which means we should be getting the fragment that gives us more super energy against frozen targets more often, meaning we will get our super much quicker with this build. The only thing that I see wrong with this build is that sometimes the perks don't really work as they should. For example, the Chargeable Light, every 3 kills with our AR, we should get 1 stack of Chargeable Light, but sometimes against the frozen targets, it just doesn't work, which is pretty annoying because that is what we're relying on to proc the 4 firepower mods and get our grenade back as fast as we are. So I'd say this build is less consistent overall for the infinite grenade combo, but it'll freeze more and more enemies, which means we should be proccing the fragment perks more often, which means an overall much quicker super. And speaking of that super being charged a lot quicker, ideally we would want to use Berserker, which is an artifact mod with this. And how this works is whenever we pop our super and get kills with it, once the super runs out, we will get a damage buff based on how many kills we get with the super. And if we get ×4 with this perk, it'll be 35% more damage for up to 50 seconds. But the thing about Berserker on stasis subclasses, like I mentioned before, sometimes the perks just don't work on frozen enemies, and that is pretty much all the kills with the super, which means it doesn't work with Berserker in any way, shape, or form. As you see, it just didn't even do anything. So hopefully that is something they're going to be working on to fix, but until then we'll be using these 2 mods shown on screen right now, which will help us whenever we're doing something with champions. And as you might have caught on with some of the gameplay I was showing off, we don't really need Salvation's Grip. It let us get the Fragment perk, which made our grenade come back even quicker, which took the build over the top and made it absolutely insane. But you don't really need it, so you can use whatever DPS heavy you wanted. You could also use something like a sword and bad juju to get your super even quicker. So you can kind of customize this build to what you want. The only thing that you'll need is the vein in your energy slot. So overall, both of those builds are pretty crazy. You're pretty much spamming your stasis grenade as fast as the game can allow you, especially with the Martyr's build. Sometimes I'll be pressing the grenade button and it just wouldn't work. It would take a few seconds for the game to catch up. But overall, the first build is by far my favorite. The way the Duskfield pulls all the enemies into one spot, that pairs insanely good with the Wayframe GL. And whenever you do that, you'll proc a lot of different perks that will help you get your grenade instantly, which means you then throw it, and if you have Demolitionist on Martyrs, that means it will reload your weapon, and you throw your grenade again, rinse and repeat, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Then the second build is more of a super build, and overall just a really good build for freezing everything in a room. And I honestly might be using one of these builds in the raid. I'll be making a video going over what I'll be taking into the raid Saturday morning. That way you guys have a few hours to watch it before the raid comes out, and I'm sure one of these 2 builds will be a part of that video. Anyways, the rest of the video will just be some straight gameplay, and I think the gameplay with these builds will speak more for the build than any words I can come up with right now. So go ahead and watch that. Anyways, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.